Hello and welcome to this episode of Creative Live TV and the Chase Jarvis Live Show here on Creative Live. I'm Chase Jarvis, founder of Creative Live and longtime host of the show, and your guide for the next 60 minutes as we sit down with a legend in the street photography field, someone I am very, very excited to have on the show. But before I introduce him and his work, I would like to invite you to comment. This is a live interactive broadcast. So whatever platform you're seeing this on, if you are at creativelive.com/TV, just click join chat in the upper right-hand corner. If you're on Facebook, YouTube Live, Instagram Live, I do see your comments, and I'm happy to introduce some of the thoughts and ideas that you bring into this conversation, questions that you have for the guest. In fact, it's my treat, and it's one of the reasons we do these live, so that you can help shape the course of the conversation. The best experience and where I see the comments the fastest is over at creativelive.com/TV. But again, I do see your comments wherever they're coming in from. So if you're inclined to shout out a high five or a question, I would love to forward that to our guest. And speaking of guests, it's been an amazing handful of weeks for those seeking justice worldwide for racial inequality. And my guest, his work has been thrust into the limelight. As we all know, we all work very, very hard behind the scenes, and we often don't know when our work is going to rise to a completely new level and create change and awareness, whatever the goal is with the art that we all create. And Stephen John Irby, aka Steve Sweatpants, is this renowned street photographer. He's also the co-owner and co-founder and director of Street Dreams magazine, with dual headquarters in Brooklyn and Vancouver. Irby and Company's transcontinental publication showcases up-and-coming photographers, also crowdsources photos via Instagram to create a physical and a digital zine full of curated art of this skilled craft of street photography. Steve's born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, and the majority of Irby's photographic work is derived from the endless source of inspiration found on his home turf, with some intriguing travelogues to round out his portfolio. Shooting primarily in black and white, Irby shoots poignant portraits and gritty cityscapes. He's got a masterful eye. I've long been an admirer of his work, and his photos also showcase a crisp and stark contrast that makes the subjects come alive. And we see that most recently in incredible places like GQ and The New Yorker, specifically in response to the demonstrations for racial equality and the BLM movements worldwide. It gives me huge pleasure. Just got some tingles on the back of my neck here at our guest today. Steve Sweatpants is in the house. Steve, welcome to the show, bud.
I don't even know what to say. I was like, is that all about me? Thank you for having me on it. It's such a humongous honor to be on this platform. You know, I've been Creative Live family for a couple of years now, so truly humbled to be here, especially with a legend like yourself, Chase. So welcome to my crib.
Yeah, it feels good to be in your front room there. And, you know, there's a ton of ground that I would like to cover today. And we're already, the folks around the world are chiming in where they're listening from. I'll report back from that, all those folks worldwide here shortly. In the meantime, just want to retrace not just our steps and the comment you made with Creative Live. As you said, you've been in the family for a number of years. I remember fondly a show featuring your work in our garage space in Seattle the last time you were out there, taking a couple pictures with you and just being inspired by your work. And as I said in the intro, I think it's fair to look back on so many careers and see the work being put in, and, you know, whatever success has come to bear at any particular time seems to immediately pale in comparison when your work has been thrust into the limelight, as yours is so timely, so moving, so critical to the discussion that's going on right now. And can you just open our conversation today with talking to us about what that moment has been this past, I would say, 4 weeks, that your images have been everywhere and in service of such a powerful and important time in our world's history?
It's just been a lot to download. It's been a lot of heavy weeks and a lot of long days, and there is this really strong feeling in my gut that, when all of this started first going down, of how reminiscent of the stories that my parents were talking about in the 70s, of them growing up in New York and them protesting about the same things that we were protesting about today. And I really found that this is a really crucial time for me to project my emotions and really stand up and use my platform to bring a level of awareness and a level of strength to the situation that's probably not seen in the media because of all the full spectrum of emotions and things that are happening with the protests and everything that's been involved in the last couple of weeks. So it was really important for me to tell the truth for my people and tell the truth for like my mom and my dad, and having something where I can show the world of what's actually going on and what it actually feels like and what I can convey in these moments in the streets of New York right now. So like I said, there's been a lot to download. It's been really heavy, but at the same time, there's this level of reassurance that I wasn't expecting to have at the same time. So yeah, I've never experienced anything like this in my 33 years of being here in New York.
Oh, well, the world is celebrating your work right now. We've got San Francisco, Miami, Orlando, San Mateo, California,
Wow,
Georgia, Denver, Philly, more San Francisco. We've got a London, we got a Paris in the house.
London
Yeah,
family.
yeah. And to say that your the work there's been to quote you, I think, not to misquote you, but I think you said a lot of long, hard days in the past
Yeah.
couple of weeks. Um, go deep on that for us. Like, what is that? What do you mean by that? Are you up early, out documenting? Do you have a plan? Are you being flexible? I mean, what has been a typical day, or maybe create a deeper picture for us over the course of the past few weeks about what
For
your
sure.
time has looked like?
Um, my life is kind of crazy because not only am I a photographer, but I'm also, a director and co-founder of Street Dreams Magazine. So there's a lot of things that I'm not only trying to balance with my photography life, but I'm also trying to, move forth a brand as a black-owned business with, a Spanish and Asian influence in the owners as well too. So, there's a lot of things that not only trying to do individually, but I'm also trying to do brand-wise and understanding how we can, have a positive effect on the space as well too. So I had to be very agile when it comes to me documenting protests, me marching in protests, me also trying to figure out ways to how I call it like a phase two of the different levels of how we're going to have some actual systematic change. Working with the brands like I work a lot with City Coffee and I work a lot with Nemesis Coffee and finding out how to incorporate these brands and other business models into our everyday lives so we can create these ecosystems of education that run deeper than not just the photos that we're trying to take in the demonstrations that we're trying to do. So um, the photography part is the therapeutic and also the level of awareness, part of my life that I'm trying to bring to the table. And then I put all of my energy and all my love into those photos. And you know, I treat my Instagram like my stoop almost. You know what I mean? So I'm very communal with everyone who comes to my page because I want to make sure that they know that I'm as affected by the photos as well too. And when you get a chance to get published in the New Yorker, and I'm being born and raised in New York, and like the New Yorker to me is like one of the milestones in my life that I've been wanting to achieve since I started shooting photos. Being able to be published by them and being on is a huge deal that also comes with a level of a defensive tactics that I thought I had to take when in that first week of of all of the eyeballs that just started to look at me at a certain point. And there was a lot of different conversations that I was having where I felt defensive about my work, and I know the attention of my work in the first place, especially of everything that I've been through. So being able to download that information and understand where to move forward from that was a really big deal for me. And then from the next point on, was trying to figure out how do I make an effective change in the long term as well too by talking to the Sonys and talking to these other brand companies that we can see if we can make some actual systematic change. So it's just been long. So if I get the chance to play a video game or two, then I'm definitely taking that chance.
Well, you certainly earned it, and I think the work that you're putting in right now is something that those of us who are your fans and supporters, and also crafts your peers in the craft of photography, want you to keep going. The stories that you've
Yeah.
been telling, most recently, as you highlighted in the New Yorker, uh, so powerful. I'm wondering if you can tell us how that came about, how those classic,
Yeah, for sure.
amazing photographs, um, not just the photographs, but break down for us how the assignment came to be, because obviously that's, as you said, not just a huge milestone in your career, but as a uh, that publication is so renowned, and especially for photography, and saying the important and timely, poignant things. So how'd that happen?
Um, so it all kind of started from the first day that I went out to the protest. I have to give a lot of credit to one of my friends. He goes by Black Soap Raheem. He was out actually the night before. I live in Bed-Stuy, so he was out the night before at the Barclays Center, which is not too far from Bed-Stuy, and he was on Instagram Live and like really documenting a lot of the things that was happening. And I kept on asking him, how much longer is he going to stay out there? But then he had to go home eventually. So the next day, I wanted to make sure that I hit the streets hard, and I had a really good chance to be out there to when this was happening, because at this point, there was just a lot of confusion, and you can't really rely on the news all the time to give you the actual beat of what's happening. And I feel like photography is one of these things where not only do you have to photograph the moments, you actually have to be there to experience them to understand what you want to photograph and document. So um, the day that I went out to the city was on the 30th, May 30th, I believe. And I will never forget, I got off the train at 14th Street, and then I started to walk towards Midtown. But I didn't see anybody. I didn't see nothing, because we're obviously still in the middle of a pandemic. So everything is still, people are not outside. There's really no other way to put it. But I texted one of my friends to see where they were, and then he told me that they were actually at Washington Square Park. So you should head towards that way. So I was on 14th and Fifth Avenue. I took by that point I was around 20th. I walked about four to five blocks up, maybe a little bit more, and then I started to head back towards uh, towards 14th Street, Union Square area. And then as soon as I took that about face, I walked into like legitimately 500 to 1,000 people, and the guy being led with like this dude wearing like a lucha libre mask with his fist up, leading like this legion of people. And then you just hear them chanting like "No justice, no peace, fuck those racist ass police." And I was like, oh man, this is the spot. And then immediately, like, I started shooting photos, and it started being, documenting everything. And then we ended up being out there for, at least like 5 to 6 hours. We walked over 10 miles that day. Um, and bumped into a bunch of different photographers that day. At least no bullshit, at least like 20 photographers that day, and everybody was there to experience what was happening and document what's happening. So the next day, I don't think I even slept that night. I'm pretty sure I just edited photos all night, and then so I could have everything ready for the morning, because I really wanted to make sure I could start telling these stories. The photos started really picking up a lot more steam than they usually do. So I started to check my DMs to see like what was going on, and then it was like around 4 o'clock, and I got a DM from somebody from the New Yorker saying like, "Hey, like this is urgent. Can you actually call me?" Um, give them a call, and they were saying, "Hey, like, do you mind to be on assignment at 6 o'clock?" And it was like 4:30. I was like, "I don't even have my battery charged. Like, let me charge this battery for like 30 minutes," because my life was everywhere. My room was messy. Like everything was in shambles. Like my life, everything was going crazy for me. So I charged my battery, smoked a little joint, and then I ran out to the city. And that's when I was on assignment for the New Yorker for the first time. And we went up to 86th Street. And then I immediately walked into the same vibe. It was legions and legions of people. And the energy at these protests have been so overwhelmingly positive. And I never seen anything in my life where I saw signs for miles and miles to say that my life matters. And then just to see like everything we were speaking about previously, people were giving out water. There's people giving out food. I've seen people from bodegas, like, they would shut down the bodega, but then they would open up the bodegas and give people like buckets of water and have them take out chips and stuff. Like there's just such this feeling of community. And I'm even talking about now and I still get the goosebumps just thinking about it, that I've never experienced anything like that in my life. So, which is one of those feelings that, both those, every time that I've been out to the protest, for those, like, I've been to 6 protests now, just about 5 to 6 protests. And 2 to 3 of them, I've been out for 10 miles a day each time, and I walked 5 hours each time, like 5 to 6 hours. And there's a long days. I'm skinny, and like I need to get a better kind of diet and in general, because I just don't. My adrenaline is pumping so hard. It's hard for me to eat sometimes because there's so much happening. But it's one of those things that is definitely draining in the full spectrum of emotions, but it's an unparalleled feeling to be involved in something like that. Just even marching alone and being able to take photos on top of that, it makes it that much more special to me.
Mm. This notion of being hired by the New Yorker via your DMs an hour before they want to kick off the assignment, I think it's just a reminder for everyone who's looking at you and your work and this story as just a powerful message that having put in the work that you have is it pays off. And it's very hard for I think for a lot of people to understand this level of work that you've been putting in. So I want to retrace now that we've established what the last couple weeks has been like for you. I want to reestablish your work ethic, how you got involved in photography, and this decision that again I know a little bit more because we were talking before we started broadcasting today, and of course you mentioned that we've been in the same creative family for a number of years at CreativeLive. But I was hoping you could share your creative journey and this idea of believing in the power of your work. Talk to us about that so that you can provide some, not just light and inspiration, but what has come to be a pathway, having to put in the work and then arriving at some point. Talk to us about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 33 years. I'm 33 years old now. For context, I'll be 34 in January. So you can buy me a birthday present early. But I didn't. Yeah, but I didn't go to art school. I didn't have any of artistic desires growing up. When I went to high school and out here in Jamaica, Queens, I went to Thomas Edison Technical Vocational High School. And the reason why I went to that school in the first place was because I used to play the cello in the orchestra in junior high school, and my parents told me that it'd be you'll make more money working with computers. So this is why you're gonna go to this high school and work on computers. But when I got to high school on the first day, my shop teacher told me that for my class as computer repair, that it was cheaper to buy a new computer. So I was like, this class is completely pointless in the first place. And we pretty much played Counter-Strike and Yahoo Pool for the next 4 years of high school. So I've immediately learned that my dad was an electrician, and I immediately learned that that I had to find something that I love to do, because my father loved being an electrician. Not only was he an electrician, but he also ran his own business that was Irby Electric, and was a contractor and electrician, and he ran that for 35 years and provided for my family and broke a lot of stereotypes, because I came from a nuclear black family. A lot of people at the time, especially in the early 90s, the stereotype was like, oh no, you come from a single parent home. I was like, no, I have both my parents, and there's nothing wrong with coming from a single parent home. But I just wanted to reinforce those facts. No, we have things that my parents, they stuck together, they fought together, they have all these things that they continually broke stereotypes with, and it was a really huge inspiration for me. So when I got older, I really wanted to figure out something that I love to do. At first, I loved making money, but I quickly learned that making money is not the overall arching goal of what is going to lead me to true happiness. Because I worked a bunch of jobs. I mean, I worked at McDonald's, I worked at Express, I worked at Sears, I worked as a custodian, and I was working with my dad as an electrician's helper for a long time. I worked at Fox News, I worked at Bloomberg, I worked at Nickelodeon, I worked at GameStop, I worked at REI. I worked pretty much at every single job known to man. And out of all those things that I've done in my life, I just learned that, you need to do what you love. That's my dad loved being an electrician, like I would like to say over and over again. So eventually when I stumbled upon photography when I was working at GameStop, it was a big revelation for me, because it was a form of access to something that I could use with my hands, just like I did with my father, that was on my terms, of not having to climb up a ladder and bang a copper rod into a ground and building circuit breakers and all that stuff. it's beautiful work, but it's definitely a different level of art. I couldn't never really appreciate. But with photography, and then like, you know, kind of like this form of like visual contracting, I could execute those same kind of goals. So um, I went through a lot of stuff in my life. You know, the reason why I was working a lot in the first place, while I was working a lot in the first place, I happened to get mugged when I was 18, and I had to get facial reconstruction surgery on my face. And that set me back for about a year, and I had a lot to really like kind of contemplate and think about like, what do I really wanted to do in the first place and stuff like that. And having that kind of resilience and understanding that like, you know, the world keeps spinning and I need to figure out something that I truly love to do was, you know, another layer of all the reason why I decided to, you know, really take this photography stuff seriously once, you know, I stumbled upon, you know, this Instagram world. So I picked up Instagram when I was around 25. And after I picked up Instagram, I decided that like, you know, this is really my life. I decided to like, I got fired at I got fired from all my jobs, but I got fired from REI because I kept on being late from taking photos and like, you know, being distracted. Because I never stuck at being at work, but I just was tired of investing why invest into a membership when I should be investing into myself? Why, or I could be investing into my people? And I just decided to take that route instead. And you know, it was hard. It was hard as hell for me. I had to sublet my room in this current apartment. I had to sublet my room, sleep on this couch that's pretty much right here to the right of me for damn near about a year to 18 months. But the minute that I had to like, you know, sleep on my own couch, I got my first passport and I was able to go on my first gig to London actually with Coach to cover Men's Fashion Week, and that was like in 2015. And I didn't even have. I pretty much was homeless. You know what I mean? At the time, sleeping on my own couch. So I went for it because you know, life is boring if you just try to play it safe all the time. And then I know that all my situations I had to be forced to be pushed out the nest. But I've always found a sense of purpose of, you know, trying to keep it simple and do what I love. And I really hold true to that. And then that's why I feel like all this photography stuff and everything that's kind of including with this visual contracting that I like to, you know, reference it as is really crucial to my happiness. Like, even if I wasn't getting paid for this, I would still be doing this shit anyway.
Yeah, there's a beautiful quote that I've heard that we've shared a lot in the past couple of weeks here at Creative Live and on my personal channels because it's been so inspirational. You talk about something you had never shared before, which is a friend of yours, something like you know, confronting you about trying to, you know, live your dreams. I'm wondering if you can recall that for us.
Yeah,
And
we'll never forget it.
share it with us. What? Yeah, talk to us
Yeah,
about
for sure.
your friend telling you couldn't do it.
So this was definitely, you know, early in the days of, you know, Steve Irby. I think I wasn't even Steve Sweatpants yet. I think I was still referencing myself as Trill Bellamy, which was like my other IG name in reference to Bill Bellamy from How to Be a Player and like any given Sunday. Um, but I remember, you know, I was using like a Nikon like D2100 or something like that at the time. And I was a unofficial A&R for a rapper, and you know, we were talking about dreams and ideas, and like, you know, I've always been a really nerdy like a nerdy kid that's been into the other like, you know, dope shit of the world. You know what I mean? Like I grew up listening to like, you know, I grew up in the 90s era of hip hop and the golden era of hip hop in New York. So like that's my frame of reference. And at the same time, you know, I love dinosaurs, you know, Power Rangers and all the other nerdy things that was happening in the world. So it like the duality of my life has always been there. So you know, I've always had ideas and dreams of doing, you know, wanting to do things, even though I didn't have money to do it. You know, I played a lot of video games, you know, have a big imagination. And I remember like explaining to like one of my friends who's from Long Island, the Queens, Long Island area, by who we were all at the house, like hanging out, like, you know, just talking. He was, you know, asking me like what I wanted to do with like, you know, photography, and like I was seeing like I was taking it very serious, and like, you know, there's a big thing sometimes, especially in our community, of like this sense of fear if you fail, and the sense of fear if it's too expensive, and like all these different kind of variables that like, how are you going to do this thing that seems like it's such an investment of time and money and energy. And then when he asked me the question, like, you know, I told him like, you know, I just want to do like some National Geographic kind of stuff. Like I want to travel the world. Like, you know, been in New York in my whole life. You know what I mean? Like I've been blessed to like travel with my family and like, you know, do stuff like within the States, but like I've only been within the United States. Like I want to see shit, you know? And he looked at me like it was physically impossible. And like, he's like, how are you going to do that? And I got so offended because like, why are you projecting your fears and your insecurities onto me? And then anytime somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to like, oh no, fuck this. I'm going to do that. And I went completely, I used that as fuel for such a long time, that, you know, and most of like, you know, and honestly, and most of sometimes it felt like I looked at him in a negative way, but at the same time, it's not, I didn't look at him in a negative way. I was more or less just disgusted with that notion that you can't do anything if you try. And I remember bumping into him, and you know, he has a regular 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with having a regular 9 to 5. Everybody has a regular 9 to 5. It's human life. But when I bumped into him, um, you know, he looked at me like in shock. I was like, "Oh man, like, you know, I see you've been doing your thing, blah 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 blah." I was like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I told you." You know, like, like, there shouldn't be like this sense of doubt. If anything, like, you need the support system from people that could tell you that you can do it. And there's nothing against him. And like, you know, I'm from New York, so we bust each other's balls all the time, and like, that's what gives us the character and that wit and that grit. Um, but I use that stuff as fuel all the time, and because it's really important to me to have always have a chip on my shoulder, and that's what happens when you grow up with a contractor, like, you know, an electrician. Like, you just have you have that initial like, no, I'm gonna prove you wrong, and I'm gonna build it, and I'm gonna show you.
Oh, that's so action oriented. I love that. And I also love the thing that you just said a second ago about surrounding yourself with your people.
Yeah,
And talk to us about what role community has. I think a lot of you know, the idea of the individual artist out there in the world is, you know, it's a stoic and popular image that culture has created. But I know from having read about you and from our personal conversations that community has always been really important. And
yeah.
I'm wondering if you can, you know, highlight a couple of examples and talk to us about community.
Community for me is pretty much our whole ethos of my individuality with my art and photography and everything else, that all the other endeavors of creativity that I love to explore. But it's also, you know, the backbone of what we represent as Street Dreams, for our company, for our creative agency, and for our magazine. Um, not only myself, but like, you know, Eric Veloso, who's also my other fellow co-founder, and Mike C, my other fellow co-founder. I call him Uncle Mike. Um, all of us come from big families, you know, and then when you come from big families, like, you are used to engaging and supporting and, you know, playing around and, you know, just being there, for everyone in your family, for your cousins, for your aunts, your uncles, your mom, your pops, like, for the grandparents and all that stuff. So the way that we treat Street Dreams and everything that we believe about, of the things that we create, it comes from this essence of family, and it's a humongous part of, you know, everything that we represent, is because the magazine and the art that we're trying to create and have, you know, be like these timeless things that we're putting out there in the world, is not just from us, it's from everyone. So we want everyone who's involved with Street Dreams, and everyone who's either working with us or affiliated with us, or people who just you know, like to come to our Instagram page or to our website or listen to our radio. We want you to feel as involved and inclusive as possible, because, you know, having all this retail experience and, you know, working all these jobs in the first place, one of the things I learned was there's such big disconnect from, you know, a consumer relationship, also from, like, you know, the people working with them, where we want to take more or less like the cash register out the store, and then have everybody just be, you know, in the same space together and enjoying that space together and learning and building, because we feel like that's how you know, you really grow and be progressive together. So, you know, we just, you know, obviously we just try to stay away from people that are jerks and assholes. And as long as you're a loving, caring person that loves your art, or loves literally just anything about being, um, you know, progressive into the space, we completely condone that. And then we want to project that onto our work as much as possible.
Man, um, you said in your intro how important it was to you to speak your truth and the truth of your family, and use the word your people.
Hmm.
And we took a little trip down the last 45 days of your life being on assignment and helping tell the stories that you've been sharing, not just on your Instagram, but again at these huge major media outlets like GQ and New York and the New Yorker. Um, Talk to us about this, uh, about telling truth, speaking truth for your people. It's such a compelling narrative that I think we all want in the world, and you've managed to do it. Tell us how.
And I think it's a really big, like introspective look on my life and what I really wanted to communicate with my work and for my people, and meaning that I've had really awesome mentors and OGs that I look up to, like Jamel Shabazz, who I would shout out his name from the mountaintops, and also Joseph Rodriguez, who've been I feel hugely instrumental in my process over the last couple of years of working with them in the last issues of Street Dreams magazine, and also on some other things that we have, coming out in the works with them as well too. And one of the things that Jamel Shabazz told me during one of these panel talks that we've hosted with him at the Brooklyn headquarters a couple of months ago was that his sense of purpose was that he was fighting for love. Everybody could look at these different things from his photos, and if you ever have a chance to look at Jamil Shabazz's work, I highly suggest you do. And once you look at his work and you see, the Black experience of what it's like to be in Flatbush, Brooklyn in the '80s, and what it's like to be out in East New York and all these different places, and then you could look at the photos for, like, the rope chains and the jewelries and the gazelles and, like, the radios and the gear, or you could look at it for the deeper substance of what it is of being love and community and togetherness. And that really hit home for me in a lot of different ways, because Jamel Shabazz is somebody he came from my neighborhood, who's published some of my favorite books ever known to man, and I can actually physically talk to him, especially that's everything that's happened with my father, having his 4 strokes last year and not being able to, be able to talk and move around like that as much as he could back in the day. Having, like, these people like the Joseph Rodriguez's and, like, the Jamel Shabaz's gave me a deeper sense of purpose with my work and understanding of all these things that I've been trying to communicate in the first place. So having the opportunity to speak on these platforms and showcase my work on these platforms is, I mean, exponentially stronger education wise in the future, because there's a really full circle thing that's happening right now with a lot of these stories. And I'm not one of the kind of people to say that, like, I think only black people should be documenting stories. I think that it should be for everyone, honestly, because I feel like we need as many allies as possible. But however, it is really important to have a full circle story on a spectrum of a black experience to document something like this, because we are looking for things that other photographers, quite frankly, just won't look for because of how we were raised. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the actual beauty of life. That's something that should be highlighted, and the perspective should be put on a platform, and not just because of our skin color, but also from our perspective of where we're from, and everything that we've been through for these last 400, 500 years that we've been fighting to be on this continent in the first place.
How did you find these mentors that you've referenced? You talked about it, being a part of a family, and family, almost, you've talked about it seemingly in like concentric circles. You got your immediate family, which you've talked a lot about. You talked about in your TED Talk. You talked about the community of creators. You've talked about your CreativeLive family and that community. It seems like this is a huge fundamental piece of your life and your work. How have you cultivated that specifically with some of the renowned folks that you cited that you can now have a conversation with, that just
Yeah.
doesn't happen from sitting at home playing video games, despite how much fun it might be. So how did you cultivate these relationships?
um, I try to be as unpretentious as possible. I try to also be as hardworking as possible. I try to be communicative as possible, and I try to do the work. And I think a lot of the times I, get so lost in the fact that I'm trying to do the work that is awesome always to see the feedback and it being responded to well. But I don't think I mean, every next photo I feel like is literally going to be my next best photo. And I, not to say that I don't judge my work with a level of respect, because I definitely do, because that's why I'm taking the photos. But I know that there's a long road to go. So every time that I approach, like, the OGs of the world, like, and having a chance to work with them with a platform like Street Dreams, honestly, to be able to feature their work and capsulize it and leave it in our little time capsules, if you will. It not only can I offer them a level of respect to our demographic to show them, like, we care and we're going to keep on passing the torch, but I bug these dudes. I genuinely ask them questions, and I don't try to be so. There's an intricate balance of being annoying and also being very in tune of what they have going on as well too. And I really try to hold that true to myself. So um, yeah, like I forgot to even mention, like, Mel D. Cole is another one that I look up to as well too, and I got to meet recently, and like Ricky Powell, the legend, who's one of my favorite people in New York because of everything that he brings to the table. Like, all these dudes are, they're hardcore about their work and they take it very seriously. So I know that they want to see someone that's younger than them take it as seriously and know that they can pass the mantle along to someone who is trying to do it the right way. So I definitely am aware of all that stuff, and I don't try to be a weirdo. I just try to be regular with people. You know what I mean? Like, just say what I feel.
I've heard you talk about where the sweatpants part of your name came, and you talk about being casual and comfortable, and it sounds like, am I putting words in your mouth if I say that's in part how you've approached some of your mentors, in sort of a casual, comfortable, but respectful way? Is that me putting words in your mouth, or does that close the circle?
Yeah, no, that's spot on. That's part of my whole, that's part of my whole moniker. The reason why I, came up with the name and created the name is not only to pay homage to my mom making fun of me all the time for procrastinating because I don't want to wash the dishes or do my homework, but also it's the meaning of, having people feel comfortable. And I want to be comfortable, and I want people to be comfortable around me. So that's paramount to me more than anything. Like, I don't want anybody coming into my space trying to fake the funk, and vice versa, because it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead absolutely anywhere. So I try to really hold that true to what I'm trying to do.
Well, I want you to know that I'm wearing sweatpants with the
Man,
page
thank
homage and
God,
respect to you right now, my man.
thank God. I was gonna just end the chat. Like, I'm out.
uh, um, you talked about a lot of respect and knowing what your mentors are doing and being persistent, but you've also heard no. What about Kevin Durant? You've
Oh,
heard.
Kevin Durant. That's my man. Oh my God, he's my favorite basketball player right now. Being able to shoot him was honestly just insane. That's my guy.
But you've also heard no, and I want you to help us understand what, when someone tells you no, how has that motivated you? How has that set you back? Because so far I haven't heard anything set you back. Everything's been motivating and inspiring. Even, your friend that was talking shit that you couldn't do it. That was
Yeah,
motivating. Are there low points for you? Is there frustration?
all the
And
time, all the time. I think that my thing is when you have uh, sometimes when you have such like a motor like that I get from my dad, like of always going, that we're uh, so empathetic that I get so emotionally invested into things where I need to take myself out of it, because I get into deep. I get into deep and I get too emotionally involved and I get too invested, and it becomes this thing where I have a fear of being stagnant, and I also have a tendency of being self-destructive sometimes, not all the time, of being like, I like to drink. If I feel bad about something, like, oh, I'm gonna hit the bottles today or something like that. So I have to be very aware of like this full balance of emotions and not trying to take everything in at the same time, because you have to take it day by day. And I do get the sense of like, I'm just trying to do all this shit and just trying to do as much shit as possible. And then every time I realize that I can't do that, it is like one of those things that I get frustrated, but also you take that deep breath of like, I have to take it day by day. Like I have to give myself like these level of short-term goals of actionable goals, because I keep on saying that the world keeps on spinning. So if I don't align myself properly, I know that it could, depression is a real thing. Like, that sits with everyone, and that definitely sits with me. Like, if I read Twitter for more than 20 minutes, then I almost get like a fucking panic attack. You know what I mean? Like, it's just heavy. All of it is just so heavy. So I had to really like tune in and tune out and understand that balance my chi as much as I can.
015 Seeds from IG Live has a follow-on question to that, and it's after this fire and the fuel of negative disbelief, like the stuff that your friend motivated you earlier. What other fuels / tricks do you utilize to push yourself for more?
That's a great question. I I find inspiration in a lot of different things, and I feel like one of the constant sources of inspiration is how do I project my emotions onto the day. There's a lot of references that I do with my photography that is referencing to the theme again of family. Like, I have a photo that recently I just posted yesterday of like a little girl shooting the fireworks outside, like right outside of my building, and that just kind of reminded me of the times of me like I never shot fireworks with my parents and like and stuff like that. But we used to we just hanging out shooting it, like shooting the shit with my parents, or like singing Alicia Keys with my mom, or like or doing like me and my dad like dancing to Michael Jackson, something like that back in the day. Like it reminded me of one of those things. And there's another photo that I took in before where there's like a guy who's riding a bike like down the middle of the street, like by himself in the middle of Times Square, and then for that I wanted to project the feeling of like there's some I Am Legend kind of feeling of that's the time in the city where it was nobody outside. It was like one man against the world. Like he's wearing like an American face mask and stuff like that. So I'm projecting a lot of, when I'm not using like that chip on my shoulder to like, because I always like to use the chip on my shoulder because that's honestly my favorite fuel. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I also like to project a lot, and projecting emotions and projecting references of my life is 100% what I do in my work. So I'll be able to look back at every photo and know exactly how I'm feeling and who I was thinking about.
Thank you. That's amazing. And 015 Seeds gives you a shout out. Thank you for answering that question. Before we started broadcasting, we're in a time of massive civil unrest and culture's movement towards social justice. We were talking about a little bit about truth. I want to visit this again, and we were shaking our heads about my experience at the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone here in Seattle, and how the media have portrayed it largely with doctored photographs and composited videos of things that actually have not happened there or are not real. And I'm trying to, make some videos to like, look at this. There's free medical supplies, free food, water, citizen-driven patrols. And I'm curious because we didn't get to it. We went live right before I got to hear the other side of that, your piece of truth. And what role does truth play for you personally and for your work?
Truth is, I mean, I wish there was like a kind of like I wish I could kind of refer to my work as like a hamburger, if you will. And truth is like is like the meat of it. You know what I mean? Like there has the art element is like, like the lettuce and the dressing, the bun could be like sometimes the caption for me. But like the truth telling is the heart of the story. Of the storytelling, and I look at it as like new age folktales of being able to carry on this message. So that's why it's so important to be actually be there first to understand what's going on. And a lot of those times, and just documenting these very the divisive moments, it's really easy to go towards a certain kind of narrative that kind of fits something that you that you feel comfortable with. But I think it's really important through photography and through the videos and through art especially being at these marches and protests that, you see like people giving out the food. You see like the people from the bodegas giving out the water and giving out food. You see like the people with the medical aid. You see the nurses, all the nurses and the doctors out in the streets clapping for everybody. You see the firefighters work, rocking out with everybody and marching in solidarity. You see like the LGBTQ community. You see Black people. You see Spanish people. You see Asian people. You see white people. I've seen white people turning up more for Black folks than I've ever seen in my life, and a lot of these situations where it still gives me goosebumps just thinking and just seeing it and witnessing it. So I know that it's easy to think about, talk about the looting or the burning buildings, because that's like the actionable things that people are seeing are happening in real time, and that you could tweet, and like, it's so shocking. But when you see the root of what's going on and understanding the solidarity and the unification that is the 99.9% of the goal of what's happening in these marches, and you can actually see it might be the best change, but you see the reforms slowly happening, but surely there's a lot more work to do. You can't deny that. You can't look to like all these news sources for your news. Like, you actually have to speak to the people who've been on the ground or actually experience it yourself. And I feel like this is our time to tell the truth in the age of like where there's just narratives everywhere. Like, what are you going to do that's not going to be the easy way out? The easy way out is easily just gravitating towards those things. But what are you actually going to do to actually see what's happening if you're physically capably able to? So, I mean, I don't see any other way.
Mm. Well, you're getting a shout out from Chitan in India, from Ahmed in Lyon, France, Mobile, Alabama,
Peace.
Steve, Alvin in Baltimore.
Baltimore. I love Baltimore.
Jonathan Thompson from YouTube's chimed in with a question that I think I'm thinking about from the artists in the community who are listening and watching right now. And that is, what is the best effective way to hunt out, find, and see these stories that you've been able to amplify and tell? It's sort of related to the truth thing, but also in pursuit of, finding voice and images that can actually tell the stories that you want to tell. Jonathan wants to know, what's the most effective ways to hunt these stories?
It's definitely tough. I'm not going to say it's easy. There is tons of information flying around all the time. I feel one of the best ways to see what's happening on the ground is, to really try to figure out the photographers that are documenting these stories, and the people that are out on the videos. I know there's been a lot of different like live streams of protests. I mean, I stumbled upon me being in a live stream in a protest for the Union Square one on the May 30th. So I know that there's a lot of these situations where you can actually see what's going on that doesn't have someone narrating the story all the time, that you can actually physically see what's going on. So you have to be really vigilant and look for them. The couple of people that I could suggest for photographers to look for is definitely Mel D. Cole. Mel D. Cole, he is documenting it pretty much every single day. He's out there in the streets. He's actually experiencing everything from Jersey City to New York to the Bronx to, like, he's going out there everywhere. Skinny Was Here is another person that's been documenting a lot of the protests and everything that's going on the ground. Anthony Geathers, that's a Geathers. Another one of my photographer friends who's been on the ground. There's a lot of, you just have to really look for the work to see who's doing it. And yeah, I'm definitely not going to say it's easy, but the more that you find like the people that are connected, ground roots, the ground zero kind of people, the grassroots people that are connected to the scenes, you can get a little bit more truth out of these situations. That you could help form a different kind of opinion on top of everything else that's going on. Because I just had to keep on stressing to say it's a full spectrum of shit that's happening that you have to look at everything in order to understand a part of it,
Do you believe in lanes? Yeah, I've heard you talk about your home base being New York and telling the stories of, to use your words, your people. Is that your lane, and do you have one? And what would you advise to others who are, seeking to find their creative voice?
And one of my voices is definitely trying to have a voice for my people, really documenting the Black experience as truthful as possible. But overall, it's just my overall goal with photography is just enjoying life. That's why I hate like classifying myself as a photographer sometimes. Like street photography would definitely be my foundation because I've always gravitated towards street photography like I gravitated towards hip hop. It's a sense of discovery, it's a sense of freedom, it's a fluidity that has always been apparent in my life, and I like to contribute in my work. But I just love being alive and telling the truth and like and just showing like what's going on in the world. Period. Like the heaviness that's happening in the world is because like my life feels heavy. You know, but like when shit is sweet, then my work would probably feel a little bit sweeter. You know what I mean? Like because I am empathetic of what's going on in the world, and I'm not like taken away from it. You know, even if I'm posting photos of a little girl shooting fireworks, there's a little glimmer of hope in my life that I see, that I'm trying to translate, but it doesn't mean that shit is all sweet, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to tell the truth and like live a full, successful life and have my family be able to have a strong name that, stands the test of time.
Mm. Um, Speaking of truth, some folks shouting out your CreativeLive class, 13,600
Oh my
students
God, that's crazy.
have taken it. 100% of people who have taken it, who've done a review, have recommended it. And I can
That's
say I
amazing. It's truly
remember.
humbling.
Well, I remember one aspect of your class the last time I tuned into it, and it was about, I think, photographing the little things, or actually, I can probably pull it up. It was something about the little things, the
Yeah,
details.
yeah.
Um, how does that manifest in your work? How do you think about that, or do you, when you're approaching your work?
I'm obsessed with the little details of my work, and there's definitely going to be a time where I'm working on a lot of different books this year actually, and this is the year I'm releasing books, which is going to be really dope. It's long overdue, but I'm obsessed with the full spectrum of a story. So there are definitely a lot of details that go into just everyday life that could lead into this grandiose moment. So I'm obsessed with like seeing the little stickers and like seeing like the little a person carving like there's a guy literally doing a wheelie down my block right now. You know what I mean? Like there's all like these little different things that is happening that the best detail about him on doing a wheelie on a bike is that he has like a blue bandana that's tied and people be out here. So it's all paying homage to like the neighborhood. So it's all these little details are very intricate towards the overarching story because it's just like having a plain sandwich with nothing on it. Like, if you add a little bit different kind of flavors to it, like it adds so much more personality and individuality to it. And I'm really conscious of that all the time because, I'm referencing stuff like my long love of anime, my long love of like, basketball, and my long love of like, hip hop music, of, the sample culture and hip hop, and like, being able to understand where the references come from. It has the same kind of intricacies in my work as well, too.
To me, everything you just talked about is around personal style.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the most elusive thing for creators and for entrepreneurs. People are starting, whether it's magazines or just trying to get their own business, solopreneurship, or whatever off the ground. How have you refined your personal style, and what advice would you give to others who are struggling to achieve that?
I guess the biggest thing to achieving, like, I guess, personal style for me is being very open-minded to the sense of discovery. Just like, I mean, I love observing stuff. I don't, there's things I don't like because I know I don't like them. Because I've tried it enough to know that I don't like this. But I still am not overly, it still doesn't mean that I still won't even observe just to have a reference of what's going on. Like when I say that I enjoy being alive, like I enjoy all aspects of being alive, like all the little things about it. There's all little intricacies to make it dope, and, washing the dishes is terrible until like you have good music, or like, there's all these little kind of different things that I really, it all matters, to me. So I don't ever like kind of, exclude anything when I'm, creating a moment or you're creating anything for myself, because I take everything that the world has to give as a reference towards, completing one singular task. Because it feels kind of selfish and like, ungrateful to not incorporate everything else that's not going on and just to equate everything else that's going on, and it's kind of boring that way too.
Mm. Lori Calistad is thanking you for this wisdom. So many takeaways and action steps and notes.
Oh, that's awesome. No problem.
So, what is next for you? We are in the middle of not just a pandemic, but a revolution,
Yeah.
and I'm curious how far ahead you're planning. Are you, is your mission to wake up and go document this revolution that is happening right now? Have you thought about, you mentioned books, how much of your time is spent living in the moment versus projecting into the future about projects and about where it is that you want to take your work, your
Yeah.
message? Share that with us.
The best way I essentially I have such a busy brain that I have to kind of break it down into like a short-term goals and long-term goals. So the short-term goals, I like to refer to this part as phase two. And I've been doing my due diligence to be involved as many initiatives as possible. So we ran, I think the print sale is just over with this one, but I ran something with Merchaid and the guys over there. Running a program right now with this company called Change, is CHNGE. Doing a print sale with them as well too. That goes back to all these different initiatives and bailout programs that are doing all the hard work. That I'm only just taking pictures, so hopefully I can help out on that front as well too. And I'm launching a print sale tomorrow with a good friend of mine who goes by New York Nico and Christelle Studios, called Photos of the Revolution. Have 17 incredible photographers involved with that. One of my good friends, Devin Allen, is one of the photographers that is involved with. He just got his second his second time cover. So he's involved in one of that print run as well too. He did the first time cover he got from the Baltimore riots back 5 years ago, and he's getting this civil rights movement that's going on right now as well too, which is incredible. And a Black photographer from Baltimore actually. And phase two is really important to me because this is the part where we can, give everybody a chance to, be a part of the revolution and be part of the movement by, purchasing art. And art is a very instrumental part of, how everybody is going to see the future educationally wise. And this is our version of, dictating our textbooks, if you will, of what we're going to see in the future. So it's really important for me to be involved with all those initiatives and having those run parallel to what we have going on at streetdreams.co on our website as well too. I've been working a lot with. We started this. Our other baby we gave birth to in the family is Street Dreams Radio, and Street Dreams Radio is a huge part of a huge part of our ecosystem right now, and we're finding very tactful ways of having all of the different protests and all the different movements that's been happening sampled into the music and having that live forever into the mixes that is running on Mixcloud right now. So when there is going to be a time where we can start doing things in public again. Can't wait to bring those activations back into the space again because we've been running Street Dreams radio parties for the last 2 years. And then on the other end, this is a little bit too early to talk about, but I have a lot of faith in this project is working on something with Sony to build out a long-term curriculum in our neighborhoods to really figure out things that I can see something that's actionable that's happening in like the Bed-Stuys and the Bushwicks and also like in the Seattles and like my friends out in Houston, my friends in Baltimore, my friends in Chicago and LA and like all over like the states where there needs to be things in our community that we can actually see. And the biggest commodity right now that we don't have in the hood is access. And that's everything that we need right now. And the more access that we have is going to allow people to have dreams and allow people to have different kind of goals besides the stereotypical things that even though we love to do is not everything that we want to do. So that's a really important long-term goal for me. Working out this curriculum for our communities for Sony. And then that goes into the partnerships that I'm doing with Say Coffee and Nemesis Coffee. We're coming out with a Street Dreams coffee brand that's going to be there's going to be a chance that people can have can purchase some coffee that is going to a great cause, and you can see where all the thing is going, so that you have that kind of transparency going along with that as well too, and developing all these kind of different programs with these different brands. If I'm talking too much, just let me know because I feel like I just be doing too much shit.
I'm telling you, as an ally, like I'm looking for ways to support, and I know that is a huge piece. Like one of the core values at CreativeLive is community, and creativity, access, and community are our first 3 of 7 values, and it is so beautifully encapsulated in what you're saying and sharing right now. So this
Thank you.
community is looking for ways to be supportive, and to your point of it was along the lines of access, and you talked about it in curriculum in partnership with Sony. Just saying it right here in front of everybody that whatever way Creative Live can be supportive of cultivating this curriculum, making it available using our worldwide global platform to provide access, you've got my support, the support of all the resources of Creative
Thank
Live.
you.
And Steve Gottlieb just chimed in from Facebook Live, or sorry, from YouTube Live, fascinated with photojournalism and street photography, hoping to can you recommend a way for street photographers to get started? So whether you're talking to Steve or some of the communities that you talked about serving, what is a way that you could suggest people get into photography, whether that's the path that you chose, or if you had to give someone guidance today, how would it be?
I guess the best advice that I have for photography is before even picking up a camera or an iPhone is understanding what you want to communicate. And then the more in tune that you have with what your vision is, that your vision doesn't require you to have a camera. The more in tune of the vision that you want to communicate and project onto the world, it would give you more of a reassurance of figuring out what you want to document and what do you want to encapsulate to make these timeless moments. The beautiful thing about one of the reasons why I love street photography, especially from when people are being very truthful and honest of it, is you get to see a real depiction of where somebody lives or what you see in your neighborhood. So there is this weird balance of being able to document, not only be truthful of what you want to document and understanding like where you want to take it, but also like where you live and understanding like all the people and individuals and stories that live in those specific neighborhoods. Like obviously being born and raised in New York, I live in pretty much like the epicenter of the world when it comes to pretty much just shit going down. So I know it sounds a little bit like, oh man, you could just go outside in New York. But I mean, I love seeing photos from anywhere. Like if somebody's taking photos in Gary, Indiana, of their community, that's tight. If somebody's taking photos in Honolulu, or if somebody's taking photos in New Zealand or Czechoslovakia, I really don't care where it is, as long as there's a level of truth and honesty and obviously a level of style and artistic individuality. Those are the most important things I think you need to convey in the message of street photography. And I guess the most important part of it is a level of it being candid. A lot of these situations aren't forced all the time. It's really just being able to be there and be present. I'm not saying don't talk to anybody, because that's completely not what I'm saying, but understanding to have the balance of like the candid moments and also understanding how to communicate with the people you're interacting with gives the stories that much life.
Mm. Last question before I let you get back to work, because I know
Oh,
you
you
talk
probably hear
about it.
like the trucks backing up.
That's
They're
right.
starting.
They're coming to
getting
pick you up
started
right
again.
now. All right, Steve, it's time. Coming to pick you up to go to
Bed
work.
Bed-Stuy is always live.
um, so the events of the past month have, as we mentioned earlier in our conversation, for those folks who are tuning in, it's really, I want to steer you back to the beginning of this. If you're just now tuning in, look for the podcast coming out or this at creativelive.com/TV, because you did a really nice job of articulating what this moment means. How are you going to continue to stay embedded in a movement? Do you have plans that are concrete enough to share with us, such that we know, the best places to follow you? We know what you've been very clear about the stories that you've told and these photographs that appeared in the New Yorker. I feel like the world is watching Black artists now more than ever before, and watching your art as it's just been shot into the limelight. What are you doing? How can we be supportive very explicitly? And is there any prescription that you would give to those allies watching on what to do to support?
I guess the first thing I would like to say, or even just to state, is that racism is not going to stop in our lifetime, probably. I hate to be the bearer of bad news with something like that, but it's just one of those realities that we have to face. But at the same time, there is a bunch of hope and a bunch of reassurance that we have right now to have proper education and systemic things that last a lifetime, that you know that kids and grandkids and everybody in the future doesn't have to worry about all the shit that we have to do right now. So if we are all adamantly doing things that we can have, long-term changes and long-term educational kind of processes that actually give access and information towards, the love and humanity that is actually overcoming a lot of the things that is happening in the world right now. That stuff always prevails. That always stands the test of time. And we just can't take the easy route. There's nothing going to be easy. There's nothing easy about this fight. You just need to be down to fight for life, and just to know that we need as much support as we have, because this is something that's going to be a long-term thing. This is not a 2-week tussle, like I like to keep on saying over and over again. Like, this is a long haul. And everything that we're doing individually on Street Dream, everything I'm doing individually with Street Dreams and in the future, we're setting up a lot of things and a lot of different opportunities for people to be not only informed of what's going on through art and through music, but also to have actual chances to give back towards these different initiatives that we have going on. So if anybody has the time to go to our website, which is streetdreams.co, it's not com, streetdreams.co. We'll be posting this week the prints for a revolution, the 17 different photos from the 17 different incredibly different photographers that we're going to be having going up. That's going to be going live tomorrow, and also going to be going live on the Street Dreams site, where you'll have a chance to participate and be involved in support. That's also going to be live on Darkroom as well too. The good guys over there. There are 2 books that I'm working on. I'll just go ahead and to make the official announcement for the book. It's a 3-part book series that I'm working on called How You Holding Up, and it's a mental look on just the overall look of 2020. And we're gonna go through it by layers, because I think it's really important to go through things one thing at a time. So we first need to really address just pandemic and coronavirus in general, and really heal with that process and understand what happened. And then the second book is going to be everything of the tension and the revolution that's happening with the social injustice and the civil rights movement, and how we're going to heal and unify from that. And the third book is going to be a surprise, and we're going to figure out and have everybody, be very in tune, and hopefully everybody's still interested and be involved and support that as well too. But yeah, I'm really excited to drop this book called How You Holding Up, and launch that with a full digital platform and a gallery that everybody can. We could create a space where we can keep on talking about our issues and just being really open about this stuff, and not having. We don't have to talk about Black issues during Black History Month every single time. Like, we can talk about these things all the time. And I'm just going to make a real concerted effort to have like these different phases of the plan. So if everybody wants to support, and all the support is very humbling and is actually making a real difference, and and everybody counts, and we're really appreciative of that. So it starts with streetdreams.co and on our website, and we're launching this big print sale with New York Nico and Christelle Studios tomorrow. That they could check on the information on our Instagrams and on our website. And then we are launching the book How You Holding Up to be released in a couple of months, which is the 3-part series, which is I'm really excited about as well too. And make sure you always check out Street Dreams Radio.
Well, unconditional pledge support from myself, from CreativeLive. Thank you so much for being on the show, for helping us understand your journey, your mission, and what's next for you. It's so inspirational. And I go back to our conversation at your show in the garage of CreativeLive in Seattle just over 2 years ago now. And your impact is seemingly exponential. So I just want you to know I'm a huge fan, and everyone in this community, again, people chiming in from all over the world right now. Very excited about the books that are coming up. Bosnia, giving you a shout out right now. Humboldt, California is in the house. Jersey City.
Crazy.
It's
Jersey
crazy.
City, neighbors. Oh man,
Truly
honestly,
a worldwide audience.
I'm beyond humbled with this opportunity. Chase, your legend, and you definitely didn't have to do this. forever grateful for the opportunity to be a teacher in the first place with the CreativeLive family, and just, you know, everything that you're doing right now for this movement is really really appreciated, and hopefully this goes as far as it can, because it's a really important work you're doing, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I appreciate everybody coming online too. I know I could talk a lot. I talk really fast and shit. No, but I appreciate everybody. Bosnia, London, Paris, Humboldt, California, Baltimore. If I missed anybody, you could just scream at me in my DM. I'm sorry.
We're happy to show up, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being on the show. Everyone, please go check out Steve Sweatpants on the IG, and stay tuned for more. Hopefully we can talk offline here about this, the way that CreativeLive can be supportive.
Oh, hell yeah, please.
In this curriculum ongoing for, yeah, we're on it. Signing off to everyone who's tuned in from around the world. Thank you so much. Make sure to pay attention to Steve and his work, and just know, Steve, that we're here for you, man.
Peace. Peace.
If you're feeling isolated and looking for creative connection, try tuning into creativelive.com/TV. That's where we've got a 24/7 live stream from the kitchen counters.
I can do that backlit shot that I really like to do.
From the studios and living rooms of many of the world's top creators, where we're doing musical performances, Q&As, cooking shows, virtual book tour events, drawing, spoken word poetry, and more.
Life passed me by waiting for an invitation when the world is greater than my nation or my occupation. Be someone you've never been. You feel all that adrenaline, it's medicine.
It actually helps me feel like my days are more purposeful.
I hope that out of this deep pain will come some collective growth.
Dive into CreativeLive TV today. Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of CreativeLive. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new experience on CreativeLive. It's called Fast Class. You've told us that you're busy and sometimes it's hard to dive into a full class from start to finish. So essentially, we're now giving you a shortened highlight version of our top CreativeLive classes. You can always dive into the full class with 5, 10, or 15 hours of great content. But now, if you're just looking to focus on a few of the highlights or want to be able to skip quickly to something that really interests you, you can now get a shortened fast class version of that class. We're also thinking this might be able to help you explore a new craft and save time while doing it. This is a great tool to curate your learning experience to help create the life that you seek. So you're probably thinking, great, how do I access this new experience on CreativeLive? That's easy. All you have to do is be a subscriber to the Creator Pass, and then all this is yours.